So there's a concerning trend popping up. There's people on the right, and there's some people on the left, too, who are, like, really anti-vax. On the left, it comes from a more understandable sentiment of knowing that Big Pharma is totally corrupt and knowing that there's some evil motherfuckers. But just because they're evil doesn't mean that, like, antibiotics don't work, and doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to the doctor or something when your arm breaks. So, I think it's a misguided sentiment. But here we have an example. There's more right-leaning people who are anti-vax than left-leaning people. It's about double according to the polls. I think it's 36% of Republicans who said, I'm not going to get the COVID vaccine. Well, here is apparently a famous evangelical pastor who's leaning into this.
It being anti-mask and anti-vaccine is anti-government, then I'm proud to be anti-government.
As more and more Americans are getting vaccinated, resistance remains strong within one group in particular, white evangelicals.
Hallelujah, Jesus.
This hesitancy is driven by a distrust in government, misinformation, and political identity. This is not a fringe group. A quarter of Americans are evangelical.
You do not give me my rights, sir, whether you're a politician, a governor, or a doctor.
I would rather die free than I had live on my knees.
How is it living on your knees to take a vaccine?
Because you're bowing against your convictions.
Pentecostal pastor Tony Spell has made a national name for himself protesting COVID-19 rules in Baton Rouge. He live-streamed himself going under house arrest last spring for refusing to close his church during lockdown. While a survey of evangelical leaders finds most would be open to getting the vaccine, Spell is adamantly against it. If you broke your arm or something, would you go to the doctor?
Sure, I go to the doctor and get it set and wear a cast.
So, like, at some level, you trust some doctors?
Yes, we do.
So, can you just explain where the line is?
The line is in this vaccine. Number one, the virus has been a scam from the beginning. It's always been politically motivated for mail-in ballots and voter ID. That's what has got a new administration in the White House today.
Is the appeal of your sermon that the pandemic is scary, the virus is scary, and so you're telling scared people, well, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, like come to my church and God will make sure you don't get this virus?
Yes, I promoted that.
Why are you giving them false hope?
That's not false hope.
Why not?
What's false is our lying politicians.
Several people told us they started coming here after they saw Spell on the news for keeping his church open and liked his message.
I was worried about not going to church and going back to alcohol and drugs. The aim for this whole shutdown was the church, because we're the radical right. We don't believe in gay marriage, we don't believe in abortion, all that.
Are you going to get the vaccine?
No, it's detrimental to your health. It starts going into conspiracy theory type stuff, but I believe it's Bill Gates and them trying to kill us.
I feel like, and I know it works medically, but when you put something in you to help you stop from getting it, you know, that just doesn't work for me. I've never liked the idea of that.
Donald Trump, I love him to death. Would vote for him again. But when he was talking about get the shot, I said, you can have it all you want. I don't want it.
Damn. I feel there's so many thoughts and feelings as I watch that. I really think that there's been a collapse at every institutional level in society that brought us to this point. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be some percentage of the population that are like out there and kooky or whatever. But I think that number has grown, and I think it's grown because trust in institutions has completely imploded. And I think the trust in institutions imploding is actually sort of correct because the institutions have lied to us repeatedly. And people know that they're being screwed. They're getting shafted by a society that doesn't care about them. It's not a meritocracy. We've been lied into wars. We've been, given terrible starvation wages. People don't trust society. They don't think that the way we've structured this thing makes sense. And so now that's reflecting in ways where even when we do the right thing, I honestly think one of the biggest achievements of the modern era was the creation and now giving out the vaccine. We've actually done a phenomenal job at that. It's very few countries are ahead of us in terms of the percentage of the country that's vaccinated, especially countries that are our size. Now, we're doing terrible things also, like not lifting the patent protections and the intellectual property rights, because if we do that, then you can vaccinate the entire world faster. The pharma companies are fighting tooth and nail to have a genocide and keep the vaccines here, and not let other companies do generic versions of it. But in terms of what we've done in this country, in the borders, that's one of our biggest achievements, is creating the vaccine so quickly and distributing it so quickly. So even when we even do something right, people are like, I don't believe it. I don't trust it. I don't like it. And again, to some extent, you blame the institutions, but to some extent, you do have to blame the individual, because there's always going to be kooks, there's always going to be cranks, and it's unfortunate, because you'd hope that people would at least somewhat immerse themselves in the literature on it to figure out what the real deal is, and they haven't, So just so you know, I researched this quite a bit because I got the vaccine. I actually ended up getting the Johnson & Johnson, which was the one-shot one. And then the FDA paused it. They're going to bring it back, but they paused it because of blood clots in 6 women who are anywhere from 18 to 48 years old. And I researched a lot because I wanted to make sure whatever I'm putting in my body is legit. And yes, the most important fact to me is this. In the every single trial of every single vaccine that's out there, that's Pfizer, Moderna, Sinovac, Johnson & Johnson, and others, every single one. Nobody who has gotten the vaccine has been hospitalized or has died from COVID. So my vaccine, they said, was 66% effective. Others were 90 to 95% effective. But they still approved the Johnson & Johnson. Why? Because it's 66% effective against COVID symptoms. So you could still get COVID, but it'll be like having a cold. And you won't have extreme symptoms, severe symptoms. You won't be hospitalized and you won't die. Nobody who's taken the vaccine has been hospitalized or died. It fucking works, okay? It works. And even the thing with the blood clots, there have been about 7 million vaccines, Johnson & Johnson vaccines that have been given out. 6 people got it. So it's a very rare reaction. They're trying to figure out why it is. It might be a mix of like some medication with the vaccine. They don't know. They're looking into it, but it's so rare, literally 1 in a million, that people are like, we're going to bring it back because it's, even if it did do the thing that people are afraid it does, you'd still be better off taking it because the chances of getting COVID and then dying are way higher. We just passed 3 million deaths worldwide with COVID in this country. Or not in this country, excuse me, in the world. 3 million COVID deaths. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. All right, so let's go through some of the things they said. He said, I'd rather die free than live on my knees. By the way, I don't want to be too harsh here, and I bite my tongue even from saying this, but I'm not gonna. I'll just say it real quick. Go back and watch that clip again. I think that pastor's hiding stuff, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, then he says he'd be going against his convictions if he got it. But what convictions, though? I don't, what's the conviction? All modern medicine is bad? Well, he said he'd get help if he broke his arm, so why this? Why this? Well, he said the virus has been a scam from the beginning. The whole point was the mail-in ballots to get Biden elected. I mean, imagine if that was true. It's obviously not, but imagine that was true. COVID was created as a scam simply to get Biden elected, even though we have 3 million bodies of dead people, and we've shut down the global economy. We did that for an extended period of time. That is not what the billionaires and the moneyed interests and the lobbyists and those people want, but we did it. So the giant conspiracy idea to get Biden elected is silly. We had to freeze Democratic primaries because of that shit. There were questions about doing that. I mean, it's amazing to me that this guy believes that. And then when they talk to the Christians, the evangelical Christians, one guy was like, we're the radical right. We don't believe in gay marriage and abortion. Okay, I don't know what that has to do with the vaccine, but thank you. One person says, I think it's Bill Gates trying to kill us all. I'm no fan of Bill Gates. In fact, I despise Bill Gates, but I don't think that's accurate. And then my favorite one was the person who said, I know it works medically, but I don't like the idea of putting something in my body. You eat food, and you've used other medicines, I'm sure, Tylenol, Pepto-Bismol, whatever it might be. I know it works medically, but isn't that where the sentence should stop? I know it works medically. that's it? I'm going to get it? No, he didn't do it. And then I always love the cognitive dissonance of the Trump people. She's like, I love Trump. She probably thinks he's right about everything politically, but you keep your vaccine. I'm not getting it. That's so funny to me. How do you have that cognitive dissonance where you really think the guy's like a god and you think he's right about everything and you love him, but he got this thing wrong, you think? He took it because it works, as did Biden and as did many others. I took it because it works. So we got to get to what, at least 70% or 80% or something for herd immunity. So you got to hope that we get to that percentage. We'll see.